My first minor quibble with autumn is that it's the only season that has two names.
Mm.
We call it autumn and fall. None of the other seasons have that issue. And so there's always the slightest bit of thinking, of cognition that has to happen for me before I use the word to refer to the season. Like there's always a choice you have to make every time you're going to say it. Do I go autumn? Do I go slightly more poetic? Or do I just say fall and kind of get straight to the point? So that's my first quibble.
Man, I almost always say fall. I don't say autumn really ever. Man, I'm sorry, this is just hilarious to even have a quibble about a season. This is just, oh man, it cracks me up. Autumn, yeah, I guess if I have a quibble within that quibble is I don't, English is stupid. So, the fact that we've got a silent N at the end of autumn, and I suppose you could be, the kind of person who would pronounce the N like autumn.
Autumn.
Autumn. Maybe that's a thing. Like if you were to say crumb, it's available to you, I guess. But I don't like that about English. So I guess I'm going to loop that into
the tail letter is available to one to use
if you wanted to. Yes, but I guess you could use it in a way where if you did, you could do it to see if anyone ever catches on to that in the group setting that you might be in, just to keep really hit it as hard as you can. Oh yeah, what's your favorite season? Autumn.
That's one of those things that is going to get drowned out a little bit. It's much more conspicuous than a word like crumb.
Yes. Yeah.
Autumn is you almost have to like double down on the end to really make sure it's audible.
Yeah. And I don't know that you can do it without making yourself known while you do it. Because you're not, if you say, if I dropped a crumb into a sentence, that's a little easier to let go of. You can throw that away. It's like, oh, look at all the crumbs on the table.
Right.
Like that might just get somebody's ears perked up. Did he just say crumb? But you try to say autumn. It's a little harder to sneak in there. I don't know. But that's a good quibble.
So wait, is your quibble that one?
No, I don't have any quibbles in mind with autumn. I have to think of it, and I think I'm going to have to base mine off of whatever you have to say about it, because it's hard to. Let me back up. I feel like if you were to ask 10 people in a random room, what is your favorite season? 8 of them will say fall.
Because I would be in that group, to be clear.
Because it's the best. I mean, you can make a strong case for spring, things in bloom and birds and, flowers, etc. It's a wonderful season as well, but I think most people prefer fall, just out of the gate. So it's going to be hard to come up with a quibble. I like that you noted that it's the only one with 2. And I promise you I was listening to the rest of what you were saying, but half of my brain at least was spent trying to decide if that was true or not. And I get it has to be. I trust you that you've thought about it long and hard.
A Wikipedia check just before this to make sure I wasn't crazy. Now, okay, for the more enterprising of our many, many viewers, if you go to the spring Wikipedia page, it says spring is also known as springtime. I don't count that because I feel like almost on technicality, if you include the word spring in the alternate word, it doesn't count as a full alternate word.
Also, I don't think anyone I've ever spoken to, even if they are the minority of people that choose spring as their favorite season, none of them have ever said springtime.
Springtime.
They just say spring. Yeah, unless you asked the question, what time of year is your favorite? Springtime might get used, but otherwise no. And also, can we just get a digital show of hands? Does anyone ever say summer or winter
as their favorite season?
Yeah.
I know at least one person who does, and I can think of a couple of close relations who I think would say that summer is their favorite.
I don't believe them.
Okay.
That's unfair to say. I just don't believe them. I don't believe.
If you were to look at the revealed preference of these individuals who report that they like summer,
Mhm.
It would actually
No, no,
be
no.
nice
It's not
if they
not
don't,
listen.
or
It's not about whether or not they like it. I like all the seasons. They're
okay,
all great in their own way. The question is, what is your favorite? And I
okay.
just don't believe anyone says winter is my favorite season or summer is my favorite season. I just don't believe that happens,
You
really.
don't believe they ever say it, or you don't believe that they say it and are being honest with themselves?
Yeah, I think it's a contrarian thing that's done for the sake of contrarianism.
See, I almost want to depart from that because I feel like summer would be the shoe-in winner of that competition. I think that, for those of us who like a bit of a mood, who maybe, have a romantic view of the world or enjoy that kind of, interesting light, interesting colors, interesting transitions, interesting atmosphere, autumn is the obvious choice. But
Mm.
some people, they don't think in terms of the aesthetic and the ambiance. And so they're thinking in terms of, when do I get to do the things I like to do most? When do I feel the most bodily pleasant around the year? And for those people, I think summer would be their choice.
Yeah. What this has revealed to me is that I'm cantankerous today, maybe, and
Okay.
that it's, it has more to do with
Autumn.
no, I love autumn. Are you kidding? I love autumn. It's the best. It's in a society that is devolving into hot takes as its main currency.
Yeah.
uh, People are contrarian for the sake of it, and I'm getting fed up with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's maybe off the rails here, and a quibble for another time. But yeah.
When your subject is the season of autumn, I think that gives us plenty of license to go as off the rails as we want to.
That's true. Yeah. Um, I think maybe if I had a quibble about autumn, it would be that it's just, man, I don't even know if this is a quibble or not, because
Sure.
I like the variety of having different flavors throughout the year.
Right.
And I don't know, I think I might be one of those people that is so easily tuned into that cycle
Mhm.
that the concept of having like pumpkin, I know it's not in season and therefore we don't have it as much, but it's like, if it was July 4th and I went into the grocery store, I would be able to find a can of pumpkin and I could make a pumpkin pie,
Mhm.
and there would be no difference in the flavor of it than it would be if it was coming out at Thanksgiving. But if I were to make that pie and bring it to a 4th of July party, it would be unfairly shit on, I think.
Maybe
Possibly.
nobody would just shit on a pumpkin pie, because
That's true.
one pumpkin pie is better than none to most sane individuals.
That's true. Yeah.
But
And
I know what you're
again,
saying. It wouldn't be maybe appreciated as much because it feels out of
yeah.
place.
Yeah. So maybe it's just that fall seems to have a monopoly on what I consider to be some of the best tastes of the year.
Mhm.
Like a really
So,
good like a really good apple. I think cinnamon and nutmeg even are like more, in tune with the fall season than they would be having them in the middle of summer.
turkey, for example. I mean,
Turkey.
other than your deli turkey sandwich, generally speaking, the time that you're having legit turkey is really only at Thanksgiving, which happens in autumn. And I think it sounds like what you're saying is, these are reasons that you like autumn, but the fact that they are all isolated to autumn results in a world where you're really only able to fully have these great things during one part of the year. So it's a side effect of autumn that is the
Right.
cool.
I guess maybe. And it's hard to know if that's like within a foundation of of reality at all, because maybe the reason I like those things are because I have them so sparingly. It's like if I had pumpkin 4 times a year, pumpkin pie 4 times a year, it probably wouldn't be all that special. But having it just the one time, it's yeah, we should have done a different season because I have very few quibbles. Like I have, well, but then they wouldn't be so minor. I don't know. You've really stumped me with this one. I
Well,
don't know.
I did some advanced thinking on this because it was such an unusual prompt. So I do have some what I consider to be legitimate quibbles with the season of autumn. And
Okay.
this will spur some conversation for
Yeah,
sure.
fire away.
Uh, the switch to standard time, aka
Oh
the clock's
God.
falling back, an hour coming up in
Unless you,
2 days.
unless you're in Arizona, right? I
Yeah,
think.
or
Yeah.
other same parts of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a quibble I have with autumn for sure. I don't have any preference really. If we ever get to the beautiful time in history when we don't have to change the clocks, I don't care if we go all daylight saving all the time or if we go standard time all the time. But having to switch the clocks is certainly a downside. It's a quibble.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's really a quibble with the season or just the fact that it happens during this particular season, because it's not like the season forced that issue. The sun goes up and goes down in its pattern. It's going to stay like that for billions of years or a billion years, but I also think you're wrong because well, you're not wrong. I just think your opinion is wrong. Is that you said you don't care if it's either daylight savings or standard time. I think the obvious answer is no, daylight savings. Like
I would rather have one or the other than have to shift between both. I think that's all I was stating.
Well, you were stating that you don't mind if it's one or the other.
Well, maybe don't mind is too strong a way or too weak a way. I'm not sure how to put that of putting it. I just mean that let's just commit to one or the other. And simply getting rid of the switch would be worth committing to one that I maybe slightly didn't prefer. And frankly, if we ever do get to a national debate as to whether to abolish this horrible thing, I can just imagine that it will devolve into the factions of those who support standard versus those who support daylight, and then it'll never happen. And so I'm determined to take a moderate centrist approach here and say that, no, we shouldn't mind which it is. Let's stop the switch first. And then maybe later we can decide, let's just choose one of them. And then later we can switch it if it turns out a majority doesn't like that choice.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong because obviously people will split over everything, anything really. I think the clear choice, being somebody who's split, is to have more hours in the day listed that are within the time that the sun is up. Mm-hmm. It's like the sun shouldn't set before 6 o'clock if we can help that. Like if that's the metric there, then we should do that. But all of that said, if we do get to a magical time where our government decides, hey, we're not going to do this anymore, and there's, a vote or a bill or whatever, however it happens, I think clearly the answer would just be like, whatever it is in that particular moment when the bill passes is what it is. And that's my vote will be for more daylight hours always, because I think.
Okay, to that, I have to say one thing. That sounds a lot like in Spinal Tap, the amps going up to 11 thing. Like, why don't you just make 10 a little bit higher and have 10 just be the highest instead of adding this extra thing? Meaning, like, why does it matter that the sunlight is bracketed between two arbitrary numbers on the clock, considering it's just an equal, it's the sunlight's always going to be the same.
Well, obviously the sunlight's always going to be the same, but we function on business hours in this country. It's like you do things at a particular time. It's like, obviously, if we were farmers, we would get up when the sun comes up and then go to bed after it, and if we were Amish and we only were able to do things during the lit hours and we only had candles, like, you would follow that. But when you're forced into an issue where you set the time, oh, well, now it's like, it's 5 o'clock now. We've decided this period of the day is 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the sun is down is demoralizing. It's like, why not shift?
It so depends though on your disposition, right? Because I prefer more daylight earlier in the morning because I get up super early. I like to go and play tennis in the morning. So it's really to my advantage that like the sunlight is early, and I don't go out drinking a whole lot. I don't like party in the evening, go do anything like that really. So the fact that the sun goes down at that time, it doesn't really bother me. My social life at this point in my life is in the morning. So it's just kind of,
I don't know how that time changes. I would have to look at the the chart or whatever of what time, like what is the latest in the morning it comes up, at least in this part of the world.
Here's and then what is really, I think maybe the answer is that noon should be when the sun is at the peak in general, like give or take a little bit.
Wait a second.
That alignment would make sense because to either side of noon, you have, so that's nice and symmetrical.
Yeah, but you're talking about the potential if there was like specifically 12 hours of daylight in the day, which there won't be. And
Sometimes there are like 14, sometimes there's more like.
well, that's what I'm saying. So it's like if you arbitrarily just say noon when the sun is at its highest, but you do that in winter time.
High noon, it's a thing.
But then when will noon be? When will noon be once you get to the middle of August? You know, will that be? Will
Right.
that does that stay the same?
Well, okay, in the middle of August, let's say the days are 14 hours long in the middle of August. I actually don't know for a fact that it's 14 hours. I need to look.
It's close, yeah.
Let's say it's about 14 hours, right?
Yeah.
So that means that the sun sets at 7 p.m. and the sun rises at 7 a.m. Equal divide. Or no, not 7 a.m. So I'm sorry, that's terrible math. I almost want to edit that out, but I'm not going to because I think that's amazing. So just subtract 7 from 12 and you get 5. So sunrise at 5 and sunset at 7 p.m.
I don't know if that is really how it works. I don't know. It's that doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right that, well, that is how it would work under the proposed system of noon is the time that the sun is at the peak roughly. But
when do you decide that peak? When do you decide at what point in the year which to determine that is the peak and that is noon? In the middle
I would just say that I would defer to whether it's daylight saving becomes the permanent time or standard time becomes permanent time. I would lean toward whichever one puts noon closer to the point of the time of day when the sun is at the peak.
Okay, but in the winter or in the summer?
All year round, right?
Well, no, you have to decide at some point in the year in which to decide.
Well, no, but more in general, I guess. Like what I'm saying is because it's cyclic. There would be like an average closeness to that point in the day.
There would be an average one, but I guess my point, and I don't know if I'm making it clear, is that like if this is the new rule, we're going with the Matt Sun rule.
Yeah.
We're going to choose when noon is. It's going to be a new noon, and that's when noon's going to be forever, and we won't ever change this. Are you determining that in the middle of winter, or are you waiting for the longest day of the year in which to decide, oh, the sun is now as high as it's going to go?
I'm saying we take the mean of the whole year, and now I don't think there should be a problem with this, but I think we take the mean of the whole year and just say that whichever of the two time types results in a world where noon is at the sun's peak, the closest to that generally across the year is the best one. I vote that we table this for the future because it's clearly this could be its own topic. So let's, we'll table it. We'll come back to this contentious issue in a future episode, and we'll continue with autumn. What do you say?
Yeah, it's fine with me. I mean, I got plenty of problems with the sun.
Yeah. Right. A month from now, the sun.
The sun. See, what's hilarious about this is the quibbles we have conversations about. I feel like when we're not doing this on video for anyone, it's just us talking to one another, are things that we would probably be complaining about that we feel like could be ostensibly changed if you were to just put some effort towards it. And I just don't know what you can change about autumn that's going to be
well, there's what one individual can do, and then there's what we as a culture and civilization might be able to do. And that actually relates to one thing, which is kind of a quibble I have with autumn. And again, it's not autumn's fault, but it's naturally how things happen. And that's that elections, at least in the US, tend to happen in autumn. And so you have to suddenly be finding yourself deluged with political advertisements. You have to think about who you're going to vote for. That can be very stressful. Making what should be like an otherwise like really just sort of like beautiful season kind of turn into this thing that has a slight negative feel to it. So that's a quibble. But again, I can't lay that at the feet of autumn itself, I guess. It's more.
I got a quibble for you.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's the biggest struggle I have in this particular season is this, and this may be a fault of climate change. Possibly. There are some limbo months when it's technically fall and you have one day that's 85, 90 degrees outside. And then the next day it's 50 degrees. And unless you are very on top of the particular weather day to day, you sometimes can walk outside and be over prepared or wildly under prepared. And sometimes I know that's my fault. It's very easy to see what the weather is. It even tells you as soon as you open your phone up. But I think you get used to a particular pattern and a certain, collection of wardrobe that is out and prepped for you. Like
At a certain point, you want to put your winter stuff away or take your summer stuff out or whatever.
Right. Or just not have to really consider it. And I'll tell you, it's become extra difficult since having a dog in the house, because we take Mason out 3 times a day. And one of those walks inevitably will be at nighttime, where in the fall, the temperature drops quite a bit. So you could even have like a beautiful 75-degree day, but then by the time it's, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., it's dropped down to 50 degrees, 45 degrees. Yeah. And I'm so used to, I walked out with Mason this morning, I was wearing shorts and, that's it. And then I go out there dressed the same. And then it's like, I got to come back inside, or the walk is cut short or anything. Yeah. It's, that is frustrating.
That relates to me to another quibble, which is due to the temperature changing, the turbulence of the weather in general, you end up with a lot more wet, a lot more damp. You've got the leaves falling, and suddenly you've got the sort of like the deaths that precipitate winter coming, which then leads to things like mold. And it's an allergy season, I think, is really what I'm getting to here. Yeah, definitely.
I feel that because I'm pretty allergic to mold and dust spore. I don't know. Here's a question: is anyone not allergic to mold? Is that something that you
assume so? Yeah, I mean, there's the baseline reaction to it. And then there's like, are you allergic? Does your body have an overactive inflammation response to the thing that's beyond what we call normal?
Yeah.
I don't think I am allergic to mold, because I actually had the whole allergy test done where they do, like 60 pinprick different allergens, because, I was having congestion at night, and they're like, well, you're allergic to both types of dust mite, for example. I don't think mold. I think mold may have been on there, and I could be wrong.
I guess it's like,
it wasn't listed as one of the things I ended up as having an allergy to.
It's a dumb question, because I'm looking at it as though it's like a zero sum or something, where in my mind it's like, is there somebody who's can line up some mold and snort it and be like, no problem, whereas I have,
it probably depends the type of mold.
Yeah, it's like, I'm totally allergic to bleach. I drank some the other night and I had a horrible reaction. It's like, everyone must be allergic to it. It's bad for you. Mold is not good for you, I guess, unless it's cheese.
Unless it's cheese, yeah. Cheese, or I don't know, I'm sure there's got to be other food products that use mold in a beneficial way that I can't think of right now.
Yogurt, I guess, right? Maybe.
That's a bacteria.
Yeah, you're right. It's a culture or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Cheese.
There's a particular issue that I don't think is exclusive to fall, but I think it's part of fall, especially once we get into the later months and it's colder, is, and this is a quibble for people like you and I, which is you're outside for a while and then you go inside and immediately your glasses fog up. And then you are stuck with at least a minute worth of having foggy glasses and looking ridiculous, or having to pull your glasses off, wipe them down, or wait for them to defog and then not be able to see anything in your environment. And that seems to happen most in like the most inopportune moments, where you're going to a restaurant and you're trying to meet somebody that, you don't know if they're there yet. So your glasses fog up and you can't see because your glasses are fogged.
Yeah, you're kind of like looking around.
You take them off, but then you take them off and then you still can't see. Yeah. So all you normies with no glasses, you don't know that struggle, but it's,
well, I just had to throw in a reference there. It just, anytime that happens, I do think of myself, like I put myself in the shoes of Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park, where he's driving, he's trying to get to the docks and his glasses are fogging up, and
yeah.
So Dennis Nedry, we know what his fate was.
Yeah. And he got it in the eyes too. So
yeah, I guess I actually wrote down some allergen stuff. Like apparently ragweed pollen is the big thing in autumn. So those people were, more sensitive to that. They have a bigger problem in autumn.
I would have assumed that was spring.
It might be, maybe it's even year round, but
I just associate most like allergens like pollen and stuff like that with spring, because it's spores and all that. Autumn, man, can't live with it, can't live without it, right?
Wait, do we even like autumn anymore?
I don't think we do. What's your favorite season? It's definitely not autumn.
Okay, so just let me think here if there's anything else that just like top of the list that I had to say. I mean, clearly it gets colder. I like the fact that there's chill in the air. I like the crispness for sure, but in autumn, it's gonna get colder than you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't consider that to be a real problem.
Yeah.
That's just me. I think that's what coats are for, dressing warmly, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't really meant as a joke. It's the truth. That's what coats are for. It's,
Okay, yeah.
if you're prepared for it.
It's just a profound statement.
Yeah, cold. I don't know. I think my quibble about the temperature is more accurate, where you just don't know how to dress.
Yeah.
Is it warm?
Well,
Is it cold?
something that would have been a quibble of mine, but that you've actually caused me through this conversation to back off from would be that you see people go hardcore to winter garb before they need to. Like I have to admit, a part of me, like I walk outside on like a 60-degree autumn day and I see dudes in Brooklyn walking around with a big scarf around their neck. I'm like, what are you doing with the scarf? Like clearly you were looking for an excuse to put on the scarf, but it's not
exactly.
Yeah.
The problem is that we live in a pretty fashion forward hip city,
right,
where, and I would think that of the seasons that are ripe for great fashion, fall is clearly the top of that game, because there's nothing better than jacket weather,
mm-hmm.
And it's you cannot, there are people who cannot wait for the first sign of a crisp day to just deck out with their favorite sweater, their favorite jacket, their favorite scarf, their favorite hat.
They're layering, they're composing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's I agree. It's silly, and it seems like the acclimation stage. It's like part of it is acclimation stage, where some people acclimate quicker and slower, whatever. But there are very obviously people who are just trying to take advantage as soon as possible to wear that new fit that they just are so excited about. But you have to wonder if giving them the benefit of the doubt, is that just because they thought it was going to be colder than it was?
Well, that's exactly what you opened my eyes to.
Yeah.
I was gonna go hard in on that complaint, but I thought, then you mentioned it. Yeah, a non-zero percentage of the people who do that may actually just have mistakenly put on heavier wear. Yeah.
Right. I was out for coffee this morning with a friend, and we were sitting at Bread's, which is on 16th, and it's in Manhattan. So when you're on a street there, even though we were very close to Union Square Park, large buildings on either side of us. And it was pretty cold there because it's kind of a chilly day. It's like mid 40s. It's probably like 50 degrees now, and that's like chilly. But if we had chosen a better spot and we were in the sun would have been really pleasant, and I probably would have even like gotten rid of my jacket. But because we were in the shade, like there's another quibble, is that like you just can't make up your mind. If you're in the shade, it's really cold, but if you're out in the sun, damn, it's pleasant. It's really nice. Yeah, that's
a great one, actually. I think that might be the best one so far, because so many of these that we've come up with are a little bit, they're adjacent to the idea of autumn, but they aren't autumn's fault per se. But I feel like we could levy that complaint at autumn, that
you could
the sun.
You could, and it's, even if you tried to blame that on something like, well, that's not autumn's fault, that's Manhattan's fault because it has building. But if it's a cloudy day,
right,
that's autumn. That's not.
Well, the reason we need buildings, is because we need protection from the elements.
Right. But the suggestion is like, just if you removed everything, there's still the possibility of that happening just because it's autumn. You could be standing in the middle of a field with no trees whatsoever, and it's just a partly cloudy day. And once that cloud covers you up, you're chilly because it's just in the shade now. And then the sun comes back out and you feel okay. Like that is straight up autumn. There's no outliers there. That's only autumn's fault.
Autumn, guilty.
Guilty is charged. Yeah. As nice of a day as that may be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, you just took a sip from your mug, and I think that similar to the sort of like ambiguity as to whether or not it's appropriate to wear winter or some more summery clothes, there's also like the choice of beverages as well. Like, do I get a hot thing? Can I still get the iced coffee, or should I go, a hot mocha?
Yeah. And what you're saying
You just
that's
not, what do you do? What do you do in auto? It just adds that little bit of
I'm pretty
cognitive overhead.
I'm pretty staunchly hot beverage throughout the year. I guess not hot beverage. It's not like I'm, boiling my water before I drink it. It's just that like when I'm ordering coffee from a coffee shop, I'm not getting an iced coffee. It has to be very hot outside for me to get a coffee and make it an iced one.
Yeah.
We drink.
I kind of feel like iced coffee is a little bit of an abomination.
An abomination.
A little bit. Yeah.
Even cold brew?
Not cold brew. Cold brew escapes that
coffee
label for me. Iced coffee, something about it just doesn't sit well with me. And I've ordered it many times in the past, but when I think about it, I don't know, it just seems.
Yeah, cold brew is great. I love cold brew, and I agree. That's maybe why I don't do an iced coffee, because I don't really like it. Maybe what they should start doing, and maybe this is just what cold brew technically is they should just start doing refrigerated coffee. Like, stop giving me iced coffee. Just give me like a refrigerated coffee.
Yeah.
Because I don't want ice in it. I don't want to dilute. I'm addicted to caffeine, so that's what I would like is as much caffeine as you can give me.
Concentrated engine oil kind of thing.
Exactly.
You don't need the ice cubes to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I get the point, but I guess I'm an anomaly where even in the hot months, we still have hot tea in the evening. It's pretty rare for us to not do that here. But I know that I'm an outlier. I do know people who do the iced coffee or the cold brew year round. It's like even in the middle of January, they go and they get a cold brew as opposed to a hot coffee. And that's, I guess, which is weirder? The person who's getting a hot coffee when it's 100 degrees outside, or the person getting an iced coffee when it's 25 degrees outside?
That is a great question. I'm going to say the weirder is the ice person, the ice during cold weather person.
Yeah, but that's because you think the iced coffee person is weirder to begin with for getting an iced coffee.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, period. I think.
Yeah. So what about cold brew? What if I change that up instead of an iced coffee? It's 25 degrees.
That's fine. Yeah.
But is that weirder? Is that weirder or more normal than me getting a hot? Yeah.
I guess by weird, it's certainly not typical.
Yeah.
I feel like it's okay. I feel like it's more typical to get a year-rounder iced, or let's just say cold coffee drinker.
Yeah.
Than it is to get a year-round hot coffee drinker, maybe.
Yeah, probably. I mean, when I go, it's a rare thing because we usually just brew our own coffee here. But when I do get a coffee out and it is July and 100 degrees outside, and I order, like a latte or something, they still have to ask. But it seems like most baristas that I get ask feeling like they know the answer already. And then I say hot and they say hot. It's like, stop judging me. I know what I said.
Well, I have one other thing to say, just to add, which is kind of the most obvious quibbles for me with autumn, which is that it's just too damn short. Early autumn feels a lot like summer, and late autumn kind of can feel a lot like winter. The part of autumn that's like core autumn, the autumn that we see on a postcard, the autumn that you think about when you hear the word autumn or fall. Pumpkin spice leaves are falling autumn is
blue skies,
only like 3 weeks long.
Yeah, it is a shame, and it is I think we've been blessed a little bit this year with a good autumn in New York, at least. Like it feels appropriate and long. I've certainly felt those, similar to what you're talking about, where it feels like it's only lasted a couple of weeks, and that's so disappointing. But yeah, that is you should maybe move to Vermont. You get a longer autumn there, maybe.
Wow. I like the idea of just kind of like uprooting my entire life and moving elsewhere just because I like autumn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of reasonable, actually. Maybe when I retire.
I mean, people retire and move to the beach, so you could.
Yeah, why not retire and move to Vermont, get some trees?
Yeah. I mean, you have a longer, more brutal winter when you're there, but.
That's true. You have to at least like winter a little bit to.
Totally. You like winter though, I think.
I do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Well, okay. So with autumn, I feel like I do almost just for fun want to see if we can fit this into the structure of giving that overall review. I don't know how that's even possible because frankly.
Yeah, I recommend autumn. You should experience it. It's good.
Yeah.
Experience it with a jacket.
I do recommend autumn. I think you know, nothing against the tropical dwellers among us who have just a wet season and a dry season, but I generally recommend the temperate climate 4 seasons, in part because autumn is so spectacular and lovely. So yeah, I recommend it. I think, I don't know if this is a fact, but you know how with restaurants, I've heard it said that, like for example, a 3 Michelin star restaurant warrants a visit to the country that it's located in specifically to go to that restaurant. Like it's worth an international trip just to eat there if you get 3 Michelin stars. So what I'm going to say is that I think it's worth traveling internationally to experience an autumn for yourself for a few weeks. That's how much I like autumn.
That is strong. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that. If you happen to have the ability and the luck enough to schedule a trip to a place where every single tree is a different color, and that's against a deep blue sky with a few clouds on a crisp day, and an hot apple cider in a mug, like, yeah, that's hard to top as far as a weather experience. That's pleasant anyway. I think tornadoes are probably a little more intense, but yeah, I'll go one step further, is that yes, experience winter, or not winter, autumn. Yeah, experience it. It's wonderful. You can do it in a jacket, you can do it in a hat, you can do it in a scarf. You can do it in all parts of the country. The best parts of the country to do it are obviously on the northeast coast of America, or even I would bargain to say that central Missouri in the proper weeks of autumn are up to par with anywhere else you would experience that in the world.
I think you're right.
And I guess maybe the way I see fitting, I'm painting myself into a corner here a little bit, because now I'll have to answer my own question. But if I had to rank now the seasons, we're going autumn, summer, winter, spring.
I think I have the same list as you.